and now that's Boston University. And her bachelor's degree was from Fisk University, her beloved historically Black college connection. Mary Margaret, would you like to introduce?
Well, I would, and I will tell folks that Brother Joe didn't make it easy to get his bio. He just said, why don't you just introduce me as Sister Angela's husband? So Reverend Joe Cook is Sister Angela's husband. I do know a couple of things about Brother Joe that I've picked up. So I'll just share that I do know, I believe he studied physics. Is that right?
Yeah.
He was active in theater. He attended divinity school. And dear to me, he and Sister Angela served as ministers at First Church in Roxbury for a number of years. There's a lot more to say, but I've said what he's most wanted to be known as is Sister Angela's husband. So it is our joy and our honor and our privilege to welcome Dr. Angela and Reverend Joe Cook. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We were just saying that I wanted you all to know that Brother Joe was on a team that recently got the Nobel Peace Prize for physics.
Oh, wow.
And we lived in CERN for a summer. Yeah, it was summer.
Yes.
And he was part of that project, which was with.
I worked on the Large Hadron Collider, which was the machine that was built to find the Higgs boson. And the Higgs the Higgs boson is the particle. They call it the God particle because it was so elusive, and it was the particle that gave mass, gave everything its weight in the universe, gave mass to every particle in the universe, and that's why they call it the God particle. And when I graduated from Fisk, one of the things that the students read about me was that I would be one of the students who would go on to win the Nobel Prize in physics. So see, there you go. I didn't think about that until this conversation came up, that I was on a team that won the Nobel Prize in physics.
I think there's probably lots more about both of you that could be said. So we were happy to have this conversation so you can share more about Paige Academy with our folks. So Monique, you want to lead the way?
Sure, happy to do so. Brother and Sister Joe, can you tell us what inspired you to go ahead and found the amazing Paige Academy? What was your inspiration behind doing so?
Well, it was really a vision that we could have a space where people could come and really feel like they loved each other, and it was important to love one another. And so I kept looking for that every place. And I have seen a lot of schools that individual classrooms have those spaces. And like some teachers just really good, and she like makes a space like that. But it's hard to have a whole school have that kind of a space. So
that's good.
I don't.
I could just jump in for a moment and just say Angela has been the inspiration for all of Paige Academy. It really is her life and her devotion, and because of that, everyone else sort of catch a fire. Bob Marley.
Yeah, that's Bob Marley. But it took a long time, and it's still taking time. But it's for work that's never done. So if you have a work that is never done, you can't think in your mind, okay, if I work for 8 more years, then I should get this finished, because it's not that kind of work. So, a lot of times people take satisfaction in having a beginning and the end. And when you don't really have that, it puts you in a whole nother category in terms of how you think about things. So it's been hard, but it's been good. It's like, how you ride on a roller coaster and you like screaming bloody murder, and then you get off and get in the line and go ride again.
That's Paige Academy for you.
Yeah. I love to hear Sister Angela speak. She just said something that was, you have to excuse me, okay? I love her, so I'm one of her biggest fans. She said something, it has no beginning, has no end. That makes me think of God. I consider that we're doing God's work here in this community. And I think we both grew up, we didn't grow up together. I'm from Alabama, she's from Washington, D.C. But I feel like we were thinking the same way long, long, long ago, even before we met. And it was very fortuitous, or it was a miracle that we met in many
Well, we were so
ways.
different, like I'm from DC. I'm this DC city girl, and he's from Bessemer, Alabama, which is like left off of nowhere. It had one street. It's a
I
dirt
hope
street.
Out of
That's it.
nowhere.
And so for us to connect, it was like people just looked at us like, "What is wrong?" I mean, how did that happen? Right, basically.
she's going to get in trouble with my brother and sister on this Zoom. They're not going to like it. Yeah.
Well, but how did that vision emerge of Paige Academy? I doesn't sound like you started off imagining, like when you started college, that you were going to one day found a school and run it for 50 years. Why was it necessary for you to found that school?
Well, see, Angela is an education major at Fisk University. But not that she loved education, and she would have majored in education, but she really majored in theater arts. That's where I met her. One of the places where I met her. She was a comedian. She was on stage one night telling jokes, and she had the whole crowd, the audience, just falling on the floor. And so I thought she was going to be an actor or a comedian or something like that. And then it turned out she decided she would go into education because her mother, who was wise, said to her in those days, in 1965, that it's very difficult for a Black woman to become an actor or a comedian. That kind of life is a hard life. And it's hard for anybody, but for Black people in particular, and for a Black woman, it would have been very difficult. So she coaxed Angela into going into education. And so Angela she was an education major, and she was very good in her class. And so she used to always talk to me about she wanted to have a school. She wanted to start a school.
Okay. That was a long-held vision.
Yeah, that was a long-held vision.
Brother Joe, can you, when Sister Angela returns, oh, there she is. Could you both talk a little bit about how your connection to Freedom Schools inspired you to found Paige Academy?
Okay. Angela has a piece that she wrote, and she's going to read it. And
I can find it.
But while she's looking for it, I'll say a little bit about the story that we're telling tonight. For me, it's a love story. I met Angela at Fisk University, and I saw her. I was a junior and she was a freshman. The freshmen come in and they have crab day, and she found her reading. So I'm going to cut it short.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I had meant to bring this and then I left it upstairs. So I had to go get it. Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. So anyway, this is something I wanted to read that speaks to why I wanted to do the Freedom School. One of the reasons. I was actively involved in the Black Power movement of the 1960s. This was during my undergraduate years at a historically Black college, Fisk University, in the southern town of Nashville, Tennessee. My primary objective, as I worked along with a group of fellow students who had opened one of the so-called freedom schools, was to teach Black children who lived in the inner city of Nashville. My colleagues and I taught them their history and helped them to develop a sense of pride in themselves and the work of their ancestors, because public education did not teach these concepts. Our Freedom School was located in a small storefront on the main dirt street of a Black community, and we only met on Saturdays. We served the children a nutritious hot breakfast and taught them, among other things, A is for Africa, B is for Black, C is for colored. That was an appropriate term at the time, as well as Negro spirituals and civil rights songs. We took great pride in our Freedom School and worked hard to make it reflect the pride and self-determination we felt in being Black. One warm and sunny Saturday morning in October of 1966, a month after beginning the program, The children and I sat at tables we borrowed from the university. Without warning, 8 to 10 police cars sped up to the storefront entrance. They did not stop. They came right in while we were teaching, and we pretended not to notice their grand display of force. The officers, all white men, got out of their police cars and immediately began to break the school's windows and doors. The sound of breaking glass and dirty epithets mixed with the sound of children screaming and crying brought fear and trembling to our souls. We managed, however, to get the students out to safety and out of the building, away from the destructive chaos. Some 35 years later, I'm still deeply concerned about the same causes, limitations for Black children, and their families, as their families continue to face it in an effort to find quality education for their children. Historically, the Black independent school movement began when African Americans brought to this country to work as slaves were faced with the task of educating their children in an oppressive environment. The challenge continues today. In the past, African American slaves were not allowed to assemble, to learn, to read, or to write. Although this is not the case today, African American children still lack quality public education opportunities that guarantee group achievement, group identification, and group solidarity. Educators and parents who have started alternative schools believe that a critical factor in determining students' intellectual and academic success is the overall social and cultural climate of the school, as well as the attitude of teachers and administrators, and how they teach and work toward their students, particularly inner city Black and Latino children. Thus, student backgrounds are not, let me see, thus student backgrounds and needs must be linked in terms of both culture and language if they're to be educated successfully.
So that's the philosophy guiding your work.
Yeah, well, being there and seeing that, I mean, it was just so devastating. You know, we're in the school. Joe, you're gonna turn that.
That's the stove, huh?
Yeah. Our stove is beeping.
I thought it was here, so I was like, I thought it was outside my window.
I have something in the oven. Sorry. So
Okay.
take it out too, please. So yeah, being in that situation, and it was just a storefront. It was just on Saturday for half a day, and we served breakfast. And to think all these years later, we still have the same thing going on. And we were so hopeful back then. We thought, oh, this is going to change. We're going to have a new world. It's going to be wonderful. And then 50 years later, we still have the same.
Have you seen any change? I mean, can you describe a little bit about what you saw when you came to Boston, a little bit about the racial climate? What did you see about the experiences of children of color in the educational system? And maybe what have you seen that has changed?
That's a hard question.
Or maybe just start with what you saw when you came to Boston. Like, what did you witness? What was your...
I'm just going to say it's a hard question because we know everything changes. And so there has been change. Sometimes there's one step forward and two steps backwards, or two steps forward and one step backwards. But there's always a backlash anytime something changes. And so, when we came here, we went to Cambridge. I went to seminary at the Episcopal Theological School in Cambridge. It was next door to Harvard University. And so everything there is polished, finished, academia. I mean, the best in the world. But it's all white people when you're there, pretty much, when we were there. And there were a few Black people in that environment. And we wanted to find out where the Black people were. So we had some friends there who said, we're going to take you out of Roxbury. And I remember we came to Roxbury and we came over, and it was at night, but you could see somewhat. And there was this smoke coming from this shack. I mean, really smoky. And we said, what is that? And they said, that's a barbecue joint. And we went to that barbecue joint, and black people were there.
They were lined up down the street. They just had a big can that they cooked it on, you know.
And that was our first impression. I mean, it was a ghetto,
Yeah.
but in that ghetto, there were thriving people with smiles on their faces. Not a lot.
Yeah. Well, they had that's why it's a hard question, because when you go to that barbecue place, I mean, you couldn't see because it was so smoky. Your eyes would be, you know, trying to get, and they would have picnic tables and everything outside. That's a community of people. I mean, everybody ate that barbecue and sat around and laughed and talked and told jokes. It was just a place where people felt respected and listened to by other people who look like them.
And so when we left, when I graduated from seminary and we left Cambridge, we wanted to come to Roxbury. All of the tales that people had told us, don't go to Roxbury, it's dangerous.
And our parents were going, we spent all our money to send you all to college and you're going to go live in the ghetto in Roxbury. You know, we could have just saved our money. We're like, no, it's not like that. We're going to work to build it and we're going to do something that's going to be community. It's sort of like Obama and the community work that he did. When you know, just going from place to place, talking to people, going to fish fries. It was like that then. Everybody talked to everybody. It was just, you know, people would put out their barbecue grills, and the thing that they do in the South End where they close off the street and all the artists and everybody come out, we would just do it anytime you wanted to. You just take your barbecue grill outside and set it up, and then you could either sell the stuff or you could give it away. So people would, you know, put out their hot dogs and people would come by and everybody would get one until they ran out. But it was everybody, there was a big, big gay community here. And they were the best on the planet in terms of hospitality and knowing how to cook and knowing how to do shine silver and just, you know, get your house something beautiful from an antique store that had gone out of business or something. They were amazing. And they would have these parties and they would invite everybody. And it was gays and straights and, you know, black and white. Most of the people who were in that community were white, but they were white gays. So they had a hard time in the world. But, you know, here we just accepted them. We didn't have to make them feel bad because of anything, because we already knew how it felt to feel bad.
Yeah.
So we weren't going to go around and make somebody else feel bad. So it's
Right.
just acceptance. I mean, the gay community here struggled. They were treated, I mean, they had a hard time, but they worked hard, they partied hard. You know, they were fun to be around. And they are, I would say, almost 99% of them died from AIDS. And, you know, they died right in front of us. We were just comforting them. I mean, it was, this pandemic is bad, but I don't know how many people died from AIDS at that time, but I bet it was close to the pandemic in some, you know, depending on how you would look at it. But nobody cared about those people, nobody. But we loved each other and we had a good time together. So we cared about each other. It was just that sense of, and it was the streets, it was so bad. You couldn't walk down the street. There was no sidewalks. I mean, walk down, there was not one sidewalk. There was not one playground. And the people in the building across the street from us, they were just junkies who had taken over the building.
It was an abandoned building.
It was an abandoned building.
Falling down. The brownstone just fell off, was falling out.
Right. And so they were in there, you know, shooting up. And we'd come by, we'd be like, hey, how you doing, John? What's up? They'd be like, they know my name. We're like, yeah, we're gonna have a cookout tomorrow, come over. Because they didn't have food. So we just started building from the people who were there. They were the junkies and whatever who was there. We didn't care who you were. It wasn't that wasn't
the emphasis.
It was no hierarchy like that. So it was so much fun.
And that's what I liked about Roxbury. You didn't have the middle class separate from the quote, the low moderate class families. Everybody lived next to each other or nearby each other. So everyone got a chance to communicate with each other. And though things were really bad and it was ugly. Good. You know, weeds, abandoned lots, abandoned homes,
cars all everywhere.
The first night we moved
Oh.
into our house here, our car was stolen.
Yeah,
Right from in front of our house.
we had a little teeny sports car, Fiat, and then we had this clump car too.
A Falcon Ford.
And so we both had cars, and so they stole my Fiat. You know, it was cute little top down, and so we saw them when they were going to steal. I mean, when they had it, and so Joe and I jumped in the other car, and we started following the car. And we followed this car all through these alleys and up and down and all around. He was flying. And we kept trying to get the police to help us. So when we would go by the police, we'd be like, help, help, you know. But the police, we passed about maybe 5 or 6 police cars.
They laugh at us.
They did not help us at all. And so then we just kept chasing the car, you know, down the street. And then they took a turn. It was a dead end street. They didn't know, you know, but I don't think we knew. Maybe we knew.
No, we didn't know.
Maybe, yeah. So anyway, we went down there to, and then they left the car rolling and jumped out of the car and ran. So I jumped out of the car that he was driving and jumped into the car, my car that was going down the street, and stopped it before it came. It was just getting ready to hit a wall. And so they left their hats in the car. So they had 2 hats, a cap and some other hat. And we put them on a stick and put them in front of the school, just their hats.
And put a sign up there. We would have shot you, but it's not worth it. And nobody messed with us since that day.
After that day, people were getting robbed and all kinds of crazy stuff was going on, but they wouldn't, you know.
So there was a lot of arson going on, and a lot of burning. Almost every night, a house burned. And it was all a scare tactic to get people out of the neighborhood. There were whites predominantly here then at that time. And so the whites were buying it. They were splitting and they were selling their house. You could get a house here for like $8,000 in those days. Any house you wanted, you could have for $8,000 to $10,000.
No, right, maybe $25,000 for a really nice house.
No. We got our house for $14,000, and the house next to ours for $10,000. And then there was some houses you could buy for $1.
Oh yeah, that was.
So it gave Black people a chance to move here,
in.
even though it was a dangerous place to live. For whites, when you got in as a Black person, if you got to know your neighbors, and we did, it was a haven. And I mean, it wasn't that. And then what was discovered later was that the fire chief had been paid by the insurance companies to burn the home by homeowners.
For the insurance, right?
To burn their home because they didn't want to, they were white, they didn't want to move back, to burn their home and then collect on the insurance. And they found this person, this fire marshal and his team in New Jersey, arrested them, put them on trial. So all the time, this stuff was being blamed on Black gangs, Black youth. It was being done, but pulled off by the establishment. And that was just like in the Charles Stewart case, where the Charles Stewart murdered his wife, who was pregnant, and everybody thought that Black kids had done it. And so the police harassed our kids from night to day for months on end until they got the lead that Charles Stewart did it himself, and then he jumped off the Mystic River Bridge. So that kind of racism that existed then is still around now. And that's the change that didn't happen. A lot of other things happen. The neighborhood has nice sidewalks now. We have lights. We have people moving in, fixing up their houses and stuff like that. But the racism still remains.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yes. So it's complicated.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, you know, just to say this, so now it's being passed on to our Asian brothers and sisters, you know, because of the pandemic. People have accused them of bringing it here to the United States. That's ridiculous, right? Because they live here in the first place, so how could they bring it here? And they're catching it just like anyone else, but they're being scapegoated. Just like we and Black people, we should understand this more than anybody because we've been scapegoated for all these years. And so we just want to speak on behalf.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring that and remembering that. Yes.
I think that's very important. Thank you so much for lifting up our Asian brothers and sisters who are struggling as well. And listening to you both tell the story about your arrival into Roxbury and how welcoming it was. Although you faced a few challenges, I'm wondering about what, if you could share with us a snapshot of what the school experiences were like for children of color during that time. I know you talked about the neighborhoods. Wondering what was it like when you went into the schools, talked to families? What did they tell you about the experience of children of color in the educational system?
Well, when we first got here, we didn't plan to come here. It was just because of the Vietnam War, and Joe got drafted. So then he got off to go to seminary, and so we ended up here because we were going to live in Nashville, because that's where we were, and we were happy. And we were both Southerners. We didn't know anything about this place and how cold it got. We had no clue. So when we got here, I didn't have a job because Joe was in seminary and they had given him a fellowship. We had an apartment, but I didn't have a job. So I wanted a job. So I became a substitute teacher for Boston and Cambridge public schools, thinking, in the morning I would just get up, jump in my little car and go to these places, not knowing it was going to be 0 degrees and ice and snow. And I didn't know where I was going. And I had, I was trying to find these places that were in Cambridge and I didn't know anybody. So it was a challenge just for me to get they call you like 5 o'clock in the morning and then you're supposed to be there by 8. And so people always called out on the worst days, so that was the day you were going to go in and you didn't even know. I didn't know about layers. So I was always freezing. I had on my little stockings and patent leather shoes and that was cold. But I went to these schools and every time I would go, I had signed up for kindergarten through 3rd grade. They would, ask me to sub for those days, those grades. And they would always put me in a classroom with these kids where they were mostly Black or brown kids. And they said they had emotional problems. And
they were in the basement.
And they put them in the basement all the time. And it was maybe, it wasn't many kids in there. It might have been like 10 kids. And when they would call a sub, they would call 4 subs to go and be in there with these 10 kids. And they would just, these kids were just sort of looked at as though it was nothing you can do with them. They were beyond repair. But I didn't know that when they sent me, because I didn't know the politics, even though I knew that there was busing going on, there was a lot of discrimination. I said, well, it couldn't be that bad. Well, it was worse. So when I would go in the classrooms, they would have these kids and they were jumping around doing all kinds of things. And I would always take with me on my backpack a popcorn popper. And it was electric, you could plug it in. So when I would go in these classrooms where these kids were just acting crazy, you couldn't really, I don't even know what they were doing. I would pop my popcorn. Everybody would smell it. Oh, if you ever smell it like fresh popcorn in a school, it just like everybody wants some. Anyway, so and I started giving it out to some of the kids in I had one of those little snow cone things so I could put it in. And the kids who were like kind of doing something productive, it didn't have to be all that productive, but and they would kind of listen, I would give them the popcorn. So I would give everybody the popcorn, and the kids who were jumping off the wall, I didn't not give them the popcorn, but I just didn't give them the popcorn. So it wasn't as though I wasn't going to give it to them, but they knew something was wrong, that something was wrong about their behavior because I wasn't coming over and saying, well, here's your popcorn. I just would give it to all the other people. So they had to think about that. That was something that they had never been asked to do before. They were just considered people who couldn't think. And so the day proceeded like that, and I was able to learn a lot from these kids, and it was really a good experience. And they were just by the end of that day. So anyway, they called me back and asked me if I would do the class again, because the principal couldn't believe it. And so I said, yeah, but I don't need those other 3 teachers. I could just do it myself. It was like 10 kids, not even 10. I'm from DC. We had classes, we had 50 kids in there, 1 teacher. So 10 to me was like, thank you, Jesus, So it was just seeing that every time and being able to go in that classroom and talk to those kids in a way that they could relate to me. And I understood their culture because it was a part of my culture. And I respected it. And I respected, everything about them, the way they wore their hair, their black skins, just everything. And I would say, you're so beautiful. But I mean, I'm not like, I really don't want to give the wrong impression, because I think that a lot of people go around and they're patronizing. Oh, you're so beautiful, you're black. But I'm not talking about that kind of compliment. It's just in the moment kind of compliment where, oh, I like those, the way your legs shine in the sunshine when you flick them back and forth. Just little things. So I worked in Cambridge public schools and in Boston public schools, and I stayed a substitute teacher for a while. Well, because I kept getting called every day, and then they wanted me to take a classroom, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. That was before Paige Academy. I didn't want to do that though, because I knew that those kids had been through some traumatic times, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to change it. That I could do my classroom and it could be fabulous, but I wasn't going to change the system there. I felt like I'm just going to be one of those great teachers. And so, you get the Teacher of the Year award. Here's your little pen.
So, we really didn't expect coming here because of the war in Vietnam. I declare myself a conscientious objector. Being from Alabama, I was told by my draft board, there's no such classification here. We don't know what that is. And so I decided to refuse induction into the armed services. I went down, had the physical and all that stuff, but when they stepped forward to make the pledge, I didn't. And woe is me after that, because the government was after me, and I needed a place to go. I was in graduate school at Vanderbilt University, and Vanderbilt turned down my fellowship because they said I was not patriotic. And Angela and I had just gotten married, so I needed a place to be for our family. And the priest in Nashville at the Episcopal Church told me about the opportunity at the Episcopal Divinity School here in Boston for a year, in Cambridge, for a year, that I could come there. This priest also officiated at our wedding, so he knew us well. And he knew I also had an interest in theology and
physics.
And physics, because I'm a Gemini, so I have two sides to me. I have the physics and I have the theology. And so we came here, and Angela wasn't expected to come here. I was really glad she came here. I was arrested here in Cambridge by the FBI and held for a while until my case came up, and I won my case. It went to the Supreme Court with other people who, like me, who were denied due process. I was denied due process. And after I won my case, we decided to stay here. I decided to finish physics seminary and then go into Northeastern to physics. And that's what we decided to do. So Angela had to figure out, what do I want to do here? While we were at the Episcopal Divinity School, she started a school, a child care center there for the students, children who were there, so they could attend class and stuff like that. And then when we moved here, she worked at 3 centers here, and they were pretty tough to the kids. I mean, one young black kid was eating a roast beef sandwich, and the white teacher asked her, "What are you eating?" And she said, "I don't really know what this is." And she said, "Well, if you don't know what it is, give it here." She snatched it out of her hand. Angela was there. She said, "No, give that sandwich back." So everywhere Angela went, she began to change the environment to the point where she said to herself, "I want to start a school." And that's all during that time. We had worked at Bridge Upward Bound with a man by the name of Alan Clark, and we got to understand the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, which made a deep impact on us and how we wanted to educate. And these were really tough students in the Upward Bound program. They would take them out of the city to
rehabilitate them.
Yeah, to a place called Shadowbrook, which is out there near Pittsburgh in Western Massachusetts.
It's your Jacob's Pillow, right in that area.
And these students, in their pastime, they would go into the city and break into people's homes, white people's homes, and rob them. And then what they would rob, they would take their TVs and anything else that they wanted. And they would walk back on this road which has no sidewalks, carrying TVs and stuff like that. And so
these were the kids we were working with.
These are the kids we were teaching.
These kids had this thinking as a product of their education. And so we had to just talk to them and say, "Yo, bro, you know what?
You're smarter than this.
What are you talking about?" But we had the dialect. We know the people. So I can say that to a kid and they'll feel like, oh, you know me, just by the words. You know how you pay people who have more than one language? You pay and they do work with all different languages.
And Angela taught them theater and took them in and taught them plays and did performances with them. And they were great actors.
They were so good.
They were just great. And I taught mathematics and photography.
And computers.
Yeah.
But they.
So, no, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, so building on that, when you talking about some of the experiences that you saw for children of color in, kind of predominantly white schools and the way that they were responded to and not seen, recognized, affirmed.
These were public schools.
Yeah, the public schools.
Yeah.
Can you describe like a day in the life at Paige Academy for a young person? And like, what are they, describe a day and how the Kwanzaa principles kind of play out in a day? Yeah.
Well, we all start the day in the morning. First of all, when you come into school, you have to take off your shoes and put on slippers. So we don't want to track in a whole bunch of negativity from outside. So just the mere act of putting the little things, shoe covers on or putting on their slippers, it transforms the person who's coming in the building and think, oh, well, they're really into keeping it clean anyway. So this is going to work for me and my kid because everybody likes clean, especially now during the pandemic. You got to be super squeaky clean, because you don't want to get any kind of illness and virus. And there's just a lot of fear out there. So,
and I've been to Paige and I know I always have to put the slippers on. I take my shoes and I found the slippers, so I can testify that it gives out that vibe.
Yeah. So then you walk in the building and we have a wonderful chef, who worked at some really fancy restaurants all around the city. But then during the pandemic, the restaurant business was kind of shady. So we were looking for a chef and he applied. He said he was so tired of working in an environment that was so hectic and that it was giving him like ulcers, just the kind of work he was doing. And so he took a big salary cut to come here. And he is amazing. I mean, he's a chef that is just incredible. He does garden the table, and we have so many gardens at Paige that we grow. One with the Cooper Garden, which is right up the street, and Cooper started that garden, started a whole bunch of Edward Cooper. And then, we have another garden right across from the First Church. And we really
beautiful. Your gardens are beautiful.
Yeah, bees in there. We have honey, and it's just amazing. So then,
and Father Mitchell, who was a priest at the Episcopal Church, Jean McGuire's father, who was the
Medco,
Medco
in
person.
charge of Medco.
He gave us that land.
Yeah,
and it had a house on it at the time.
And when we had just gotten to town, we hadn't been here that long, and he gave us the land.
This was in 1969, 1970.
And the land was just sitting there, minding its business, a really beautiful house on it, and it had garages on it. The city tore it down. And then when we found out it was torn down and we went and asked them about it, they said they had something that had our signature on it saying that we had told them they could tear it down. And we tried to fight them because they just tore our house down.
Can you imagine going down to see your house one day and it's gone and you're looking for it and you know it was there and it's just not there and nobody even told you anything about it?
And
that's
then when
what
you asked
the city
them, they
did.
had a sign. It had my name on it, but it wasn't my signature. I didn't even know who these people were. We didn't know anything about it. We were in our 20s then, so we didn't really know how to fight, even though we knew that we could use legal aid. But then that was kind of hard because legal aid at the time was stretched, and they didn't want to go up against the city anyway.
And we had just had a baby. Yeah. And we were working with the theater company, the high school students and the theater company, the Black Ghetto Theater Company, that we started after we left the Upward Bound program that Alan Clark had, who was an amazing man, that he had. And
they did Kwanzaa. They did the 7 principles.
They did the 7 principles.
So we worked at the Highland Park Free School. They did the 7 principles. We worked at Upward Bound. They did 7 principles. And we was one of the Elma Lewis. I taught ballet at Elma Lewis. So
a wonderful school.
Yeah, and her school was just really doing a lot of really wonderful cultural things. I mean,
it was like Hollywood here in Roxbury with Elma Lewis.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about a day? So you talked about coming in and the cooking and the farm to table and the gardens.
So
like
the
a
kids
little bit more about
Okay, so then we're at breakfast. Okay, so then they had this wonderful breakfast, you know. They do it, well, right now we can't do it family style because of the COVID, but so they get it in a little package. It's still a pretty package. I hate those styrofoam plastic. So that's been a nightmare for us trying to still be holistic. But you know, now you got to eat your lunch in a container, and the only thing they have out there is styrofoam plastic. And so then what are you going to do? You have to do something because that's, you know, what you need to do to pass the sanitation.
So we bought the
things.
hard plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, but you still, then we have to do.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a
I
nightmare.
know. Yeah.
So keep going.
So then we have, after breakfast, we have what we call circle time, which is Umoja, and it's called Moja Unity. So all the children in every classroom, like the infants, the toddlers, preschool, elementary grades 1 through 6, they sit in a circle with their pod and they recite the 7 principles. And they say them in Swahili and in English. And so they're Umoja, unity, Kujichangalia, self-determination, Ujima, collective work and responsibility, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, Nia, purpose, Kuumba, creativity, and Imani, faith. So those kind of sound arbitrary, you know, but the one that usually hits people the hardest is the one that's faith, because everybody has their opinion about what is faith. I mean, you want to get into an argument and talk about
faith.
What faith is. So at first when we didn't have that, people would come to the school and they wanted to convert people to whatever they were. They wanted to be, I don't even want to name them because they were all there trying to convert everybody, you know. And so we said, oh, this is a nightmare. You know, you all are good. All you are. You have your thoughts. You're Muslim. You're Hindu. Whatever you are, it's fine. It's all, you know, we're all children of God.
Yeah.
We don't need to. So then when we started using the Kwanzaa principles, we use faith to say faith in yourself, faith in your ancestors, and faith in your God. Your God, whoever that, whatever, faith in that. But having faith in yourself, faith in your ancestors and your God, how will you describe that? Boy, that just took, it was like it was in a pressure cooker and it just let the pressure off and then everybody could breathe. So the principles are just so effective and they're universal. And even though they're from, you know, the diaspora, they still just really, if you apply them to
universal.
whatever you are having a problem with, any little problem, the kids can even do it. You know, oh, he knocked over my blocks. Well, you're gonna, you know, okay. So, you know, you don't have
work and responsibility.
Yeah. So and then he's crying. So everybody else is, I'm like, well, Johnny's upset because Stevie knocked over his blocks. And what are we going to do? And then the kids say, well, you know, Stevie, you shouldn't have knocked over his blocks. He said, yeah, but I just wanted to. So then they say, oh, well, yeah, but okay, so let's help build back the blocks and let's play with him to build something else. So then they'll just all stop what they're doing and go and help these 2 kids solve a problem like he knocked over my blocks in a way that is holistic and that they become a part of. So they'll build another tower with the other kid and they'll take the other kid and say, what do you want to do? And they know to do that. And they know to encourage one another. If you're, you know, reading out loud, for instance, during the time when we do reading, then, you know, a lot of times kids will laugh, but we don't laugh.
We don't encourage it.
You know, if you laugh, we'll say, well, you know, how did that make you feel? And they say, well, I just wanted to laugh. Well, did it make you feel good? Did it make you feel like that was a good thing? Because now you look over at him, what do you think he's feeling? And then they're like, oh my goodness, he might be feeling bad. I said, well, you think, you know, is there anything you could do to help? So those are the kind of critical thinking that we teach the kids. And it depends on the age of them. If you're an infant, of course, you know, you just learn how to walk. So we're going, you can do it. You come on, walk. You know, then we take
you
pictures.
should see it. And then they
send them to the parents and the parents are at work and they get this picture and their kid is walking and they're saying, I wanted to be there to see that first walk. We took pictures, so they got it, you know. So then, you know, you go to each age group is a different emphasis. And you, as you saw on the slides, in the older children, we have robotics, and so they make robots and they compete. I want to tell you a quick story about the robot program.
And tell us the story, and then we want to open it for questions and answers, because I know the people want to have their questions of you too. So please share the story, and then we're going to go to the commercial and then come back.
Okay. So there's a program called Timothy Smith.
Oh yeah.
And it has a lot of collaborators that work, and they work with children mainly around science and technology. So they've been doing, different things, and we've been a member of it since the beginning. We were one of the first groups of people who started doing Timothy Smith, and we've been doing it for years now. And so anyway, they decided to have this robotic class and competition. And so most of the kids who are in Timothy Smith are high school or over, but we're the only elementary school that's there. And so when they decided to have it, they said that the elementary school couldn't be in it. You had to be high school. So we said, no, we want to be in it. Our kids are doing, robots and competition. And they said, no, they can't be in it. So we protested, and they changed the verdict, and they said, okay, you all can be in it. So they had these different competitions. There was first prize, second prize, and third prize. And our kids were the youngest kids there. They won first prize, second prize, and third prize. That was the first year. But now we haven't won since then, because now the older kids were so mad that these little kids from elementary school had won all 3 prizes, that since that year when they come, those kids are really strong. So see how it rippled, even though it wasn't a teaching that we were doing, but the fact that our kids beat them all made those kids, and it was a lot of high schools, feel like, oh, we're never going to let them beat us again like that. And so they worked so hard. So those are the kinds of, connections.
One thing I want to say,
Awesome.
just for you to think about, and that is, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
What does that mean, Jeff?
We'll tell you after the commercial.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So we're going to, friends, our viewers, we're going to share a commercial again that we want to highlight, business in Nubian Square. And then we're going to come back to leave a few minutes for questions and answers of Sister Angela and Brother Joe.
Good afternoon, I'm Catherine Hardaway here at Final Touch Boutique in Dudley Square. This is a family-owned business. I am one of the owners. The other owners are Abu Bashir, my husband, and Haris Hardaway, our son. We also have store manager Merlene Burrows, and we make up the team of Final Touch with Class. Hi! Usually you come in, you'll see my husband, Abu Bashir.
Back in 2005, my wife just says, I got an idea. Hey, what about a boutique accessory store? And I said, hey, why not?
You'll see Haris, our son, who is really the one who does all of the very fashionable windows that people come by and admire.
I'm Haris, and this is what happens when you shop in Nubian Square. You get beautiful clothes. We have our wonderful customer. Her name is Jackie, and she's also a model for our store. Our customers are our models. You have an entire ensemble from Final Touch Boutique. She's wearing a beautiful off-white shawl with the faux fur that's lined around and trimmed, the gloves. And as she opens up her shawl, you'll see this beautiful sequined cheetah print, and it comes with the vegan leather pants. It's a beautiful, beautiful dress. Now, if you'll follow me this way, I can show you more. I love this. This color is called fawn. This is another vegan leather off the shoulder. We do all styles, Western, American styles as well. We have an entire section dedicated to our African print. A beautiful pattern in the print. And so what you can do is match this with this. It's a very casual piece. If you throw a necklace or some earrings with this, you could wear this to work. We're located at 17 Warren Street in Nubian Square, Boston. Our hours of operation are Monday to Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Thursday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. www.finaltouchwithclass.com, and also Final Touch Boutique on Instagram. It's all here in Nubian Square, so please come join us.
Okay, so so we're going to invite viewers to put questions or comments in. There's a Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We do have some comments in the chat already, but we'd love for any questions that you have about Paige Academy. We have a few minutes together to just ask any questions that you have. So first, I'm going to ask a question from Mary Blanchette, which is, who is the artist hanging behind you? It looks like Alan Rohan Wright.
Yeah, and actually, the two
Yeah,
artists, to
two.
be honest, one is, we'll turn off phone so you can see it.
Oh, thank you.
Can you see them now? Okay.
Yes.
So this is Ahmed Cook. This is our son. He passed away, but he taught here at the school for many years, and he was really one of the people who made the school go.
He went to school here.
He went to school here, but he would get up in the morning and work all weekends and shovel the snow and just work. He's the only one of our 4 kids who worked like that. Of course, he would be the one to die, right? But you know, that's his work. And then this other one is a piece that we brought back from Hong Kong, Hangzhou, yeah.
Thank
But we
you.
do have a lot of Alan Kreit's work, which is on the wall behind me.
Alan Kreit was our second son, Israel's godfather.
Oh, wow.
And so we met with him many times. He was here at the school often drawing.
Yeah, he drew the children.
And we named a garden, a playground after him called the Alan Kreit Berry Rock Garden.
Yeah.
So we were very close to him.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned his name.
There is another question from Carla Bear. And what are some of the things parents say about their children's experiences at Paige Academy that you, Sister Angela and Brother Joe, make you feel especially good about your hard work building and sustaining Paige Academy over so many years?
Well, you know, I was a teacher here. I'm an administrator now. I still teach every now and then when a teacher is absent, but parents would say things to me like, my kid is now in computer science, or my kid is now a camera person for this news station, or my child now owns a business. And they're usually, I mean, everywhere we go, we see parents who give us their appreciation for what we've done. And I think that being a teacher, you know, you don't get your reward right away. You have to wait years before you get your reward, because you don't get paid a lot of money. When we started Paige, we were doing it for $25 a week for about 13 years, the people who worked here. We all lived together. It was like a commune. And then we just started making money lately when we got a contract with the state on the EEC, and we pay our teachers much more now, a livable wage. But those are the kind of things. I was once in a grocery store, and I was broke. I had about $5, and Angela and I were hungry. And I walked into a former parent who saw me. She was so happy that her child had come to our school, and we had boosted his morale so much that she gave me $50. Not a wealthy person, this person was. She just put $50 in my hand. I opened my hand up, and there it was. So, and it's not just parents, it's just been people in the community, because the school, our playground, we had the first playground in this community. We built it ourselves. We never waited for the state or the city to do things for us. When we wanted it done, we would do it. And so we knew all of our neighbors. We know them now by name. And so that's how it goes.
Thank you. Thank you. I have another question here from Valerie, who asked how many teachers, well, actually, I want to share something that came from our friend Bing Broderick from Haley House. And just more of a comment, but I wanted to share it. It said, thanks to you both, Sister Angela and Brother Joe. So grateful to you both for your generous spirit. And I'm loving this forum to learn more about how Paige Academy came about. XO Bing. I just wanted to share that.
Brother Bean is a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He is. I agree.
Well, you know, they have a really great garden, and our children go to their garden
On
It's
Thornton
on Thornton
Street.
Street, and it's really beautiful garden, and our kids really just like, because they work so hard in their garden, and the gardening season is going to start on April 1st, I think, is when we're going to start planting peas and getting the beds ready. So this year we got a small grant to do the gardens on Saturday. So we're going to have a Saturday class every other Saturday where people can come and bring their children and they can garden with us. And then we'll make something afterwards, like some kind of food thing, and we'll have lunch. So we got this really small grant from UPK.
Universal Pre-Kindergarten.
Right. And
Part of
so
the Boston
we're
Public
excited.
Schools.
Yeah, we're part of the Boston Public Schools, that programs that they have. So we just found out about this grant on Friday. So, if anyone's who's listening, who's interested in coming, let us know. We're going to have 10 families every other week. So we're going to kind of rotate it too. Depends how many people sign up.
There's another question here that says, how many teachers and students in the school, and are the grades combined for some classes? That's from Valerie.
We have about 165 students in the school in the summertime and 125 during the school year.
When it's not a pandemic.
When it's not a pandemic. from infancy through 6th grade. And we have 43 full-time teachers when it's not a pandemic. Right now, we had to cut everything in half because of the CDC regulations.
So it's been really hard because we had to lay off a dozen teachers because we just couldn't afford to keep them because we could only have half the amount of children.
But we kept them on for 5 months because
we got a PPP.
We got a PPP grant.
That was big. So everybody got to get that and stay on. Then some people elected unemployment, so they were able to stay on. But we still haven't been able to bring everybody back because we still have. I think it's interesting that for early childhood education, they make us distance 6 feet apart. Now they're talking about, well, it's only 3 feet that you need. Well, if it's 3 feet for them, how come it can't be 3 feet for us? Because then that's the amount of money you can make. So if our hands are tied and we can't really make the money we need to run the school because they have all these rules, the rules are for us are one way, and then they're going to be Boston Public Schools 3 feet apart. What is it? If you can get it from 3 feet, then it's the same for whatever age you are.
And you have to teach critical thinking because, when the pandemic came and they decided to close businesses and everything, they didn't close the school, the child care centers, the early education centers. They closed the public schools.
The babies didn't matter.
Right, but we made a decision to close a week early, and we caught so much flack from people because of that. But then the following week, they decided to close all the schools. So sometimes you got to think for yourself. We really do.
Excellent. Thank you. And you're right. Things are constantly changing. And I completely understand the frustration with the 3 feet and 6 feet. But we're all going to come to a place where we can figure it out and everybody can be together soon. There are 2 comments that I want to read to you. And then I think we will go to a quick break for a moment. This comment comes from Connie Count. Just to let you know that Lou is from Birmingham, Alabama, and grew up in DC. He also is a Gemini. Wonderful presentation. You guys are great, and your work is very inspiring.
Wow.
The second comment, yes.
Home people.
The second comment is from Linda. You two and the staff set the foundation of academics and broaden their horizons. And
Thank you.
Let me just say quickly
Yes.
why you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because if that basket falls and all those eggs break, you're not going to eat. So for 50 years, we've been doing Paige Academy. And for 50 years, we've been doing it with city funding, state funding, private funding, theater, sometimes, drumming, African drum.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone a lot of different ways to keep the funding come in. You just can't have one stream of
fish dinners. I mean, we take it all the way back to what will work. If we can raise $3.50 from a fish dinner on Friday, then we'll do it. But diversifying the funding is very important for us. And all the programs in Boston who've had Black founders, when they left, it closed. So, it's really scary, and we don't want that to happen. We want to see Paige Academy around for, a long while. We want it to be generational. We need endowments to make that happen so that, we don't have to just, you can't be in a situation where you have to depend on somebody else. God bless the child who has his own, what is what Billie Holiday said. So we have our building, we have our land, we have a lot of land around the school, gardens and land. And we have to hold on to that. And it's really hard when the neighborhood is diversifying and there's people coming in who have a lot more money. We've been offered so much money for these buildings. Every week we get a letter in the mail, and about every month we get someone knock on the door. And they always feel like, oh, I'll do you a favor today. I'll buy your land. Like,
So I want to take a moment, Sister Angela and Brother Joe, because you talked about how you're looking to transition in your lives, and you want Paige Academy to endure. And we did want to share a video. We asked you, how can people support your work in Paige Academy? And we have a little video that tells people how they can support. There are lots of comments coming in, seems like a wonderful opportunity for students to learn and grow. We're hoping to enroll our daughter, Ayana, in your preschool this spring. But as you think about the future, we wanted to sort of share a way that people who are watching can support the work of Paige Academy, ensure that it lasts for another 50 years. We're going to share that now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
hello and welcome to Paige Academy. We're so glad you're here. I'm Sister Angela Paige Cook, and I'm one of the founders of Paige Academy. Paige Academy is a nursery and elementary school. We started Paige Academy almost 50 years ago in this area of Roxbury because my husband and I and the other founders had come out of the civil rights movement of the 60s. We really thought it was needed, a school that was an independent school that would welcome children, especially children of color, who may have been marginalized in other school systems. So we moved in and made up space, made a sacred space where we had apple trees and pear trees and plum trees and chickens and ducks and those kinds of things.
My name is Sister Mussolina, and I've been at Paige for all my life. I started out coming to school here at 3 months until I was 13. So now I just recently got my degree, and I'm currently the lead teacher in the preschool kindergarten class. Paige Academy is the foundation of your child's life. This is the early childhood stage where kids are grasping and learning so much. Going out to our gardens to teach children about the environment and the agriculture field, they love it.
Hi, my name is Sister Adelphia. I've been here for 12 years now, and I'm currently the elementary school teacher. We have a lot of specials throughout the week. The children participate in music, yoga, improv, drumming, African drumming and dance, arts. We go to the physics lab at Northeastern. We also have Northeastern students come to the school and do robotics with us, and we do a lot of computer programming.
And now that we've been working here almost 50 years, we're ready to transition the school into the hands of people who have the same vision and have a little more energy than we do at our age. So many black and brown schools, when the founders retire, the school goes away. We're doing this campaign to raise $50,000 at a minimum so that we can stabilize all the components of the school. So we need all of you to contribute to our campaign and help us keep Paige Academy alive for at least another 50 years. We'd like to be around as long as Harvard University. And we invite you to come and visit us, and if you do make a donation, we'll give you some wonderful gift that some of our children have made, and maybe you will come and have tea with me. Thank you. people there now, Joe?
We're back. We're coming back. So we also have a little, I think we also, Sister Angela and Brother Joe, in our last final moments, we do have a little presentation for you, I think, that we wanted to give in honor of this 50th anniversary time.
We do. There are lots of folks in the community who, as you know, respect you, look up to you, and you have also educated many. So at this time, I will ask Mulaney to share some of those words that she has gathered about who you are to so many people.
Thank you, Monique. Can everyone hear me?
Hi.
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 So the legacy of Paige Academy and of Dr. and Reverend Cook is far-reaching and has touched many generations. We are going to share just a few reflections from some of the many people who wanted to celebrate you.
Oh, nice.
From Wendy Ellertson.
Oh, Wendy.
It has been a blessing to live in Highland Park these past 50 plus years with Sister Angela and Brother Joe. They have served as a model of how to live a life of uncompromising commitment, persistence, and dedication to each other, to family, and to community. Through their passion for relevant education infused with the arts, they have lifted up the importance of understanding and passing on heritage while celebrating the strength and ability of all individuals and their stories. They inspire us all to take the time to savor the joy life offers and to care for each other. I remember attending the funeral of Brother Joe and Sister Angela's son, Ahmed, at First Church. The service was filled with dance, drumming, and heartfelt community sorrow, mixed with a deep celebration of life. I walked out thinking, this is why we have chosen to live and stay here.
Wow.
Now I'm going to get my makeup all over my face.
Don Ellertson echoes Wendy's sentiments and also wants to say that he has seen Sister Angela and Brother Joe contribute to the work of the Highland Park Community Land Trust with forthright observations and suggestions for how to move this organization forward, and he is thankful.
Wow.
Nice.
Thank you for John, too.
Yeah.
From Anna P.S. of the Thornton Street Farm.
Oh, Anna, we were just talking about her.
The first second I walked into Paige Academy, I could feel the magic. The foundation and roots that Dr. and Reverend Cook have set run so deep, and the legacy they leave will live on for generations to come. I've been so honored to partner with Paige Academy over the past few years, and am truly inspired by their work. Thank you for the love and joy you bring to so many young people and families.
Oh, she's so sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And finally, from Linda Freeman.
Oh, Linda.
Before I met Angela and Joe Cook, the late Samantha Sad, program coordinator of HYCC, spoke of them with reverence. I had no idea of the astute intellectuals that walked, breathed, and roamed Highland Park. I happened to chaperone a field trip for the HYCC after program students to Paige Academy. Sam had made it a point that the HYCC kids knew the history and its heritage within Highland Park, Fort Hill, and beyond its borders via culturally enlightening field trips. At the infamous Paige Academy, there's a similar mission, similar principles to carry and walk through life with. Have you ever seen Paige Academy students on a field trip? It warms your heart and soul. Your child or another child is not only in good hands, but in the great, magnificent hands.
Oh,
Wow.
so sweet.
Cultural enrichment of self, of others, of community become worldly within Paige Academy and beyond its doors. And to this day and into tomorrow, the students that emerge from Paige Academy will do and carry that solid rock foundation that Sister Angela and Brother Joe invoke. Sister Angela and Brother Joe, humble you two may be, this community is rich with your insight and foresight, fortitude, peace and blessings.
Oh, that's so
Wow.
sweet.
Thank you.
This is so nice. I mean, usually you don't get this until your funeral, and then you're not necessarily there to hear it.
Not necessarily.
I'm going to hear it tonight. And there's one final piece from Roxanne.
Hello and good evening to all. On behalf of the UU Urban Ministry, we present you both with this basket of love in appreciation of your commitment to
Oh, that's
education
beautiful.
and diversity. Ashe.
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 Let it be.
And I think you'll get it more than just a picture of it. I think you'll actually get the actual basket.
Yes.